card, which is a horse girl, and then we fade in and there's a horse walking. We pan up, see the rider, and she speeds up her horse. She's going around past the camera, and she goes over a jump, sticks the landing, and she's getting off, and she leads her horse into the barn, feeds it a carrot, pats it on the nose, and she walks off. And she marks off the day on her calendar, and she's going to school. She arrives at school, she's walking up to her friends, and she's just talking to them about her ride yesterday, but they don't really seem to care and they walk away. And that makes her really sad. And a few weeks later, she wins a competition, and she shows them, and nobody even seems to care. And then she comes to school next day, and they're making fun of her. And this really upsets her, and she goes home and leaves her backpack, and she walks up the stairs into her room. She goes over to her calendar, and she takes the helmet, and she puts it in a box, and then she gets a ribbon, and she puts it in the box as well, and she closes the door, the closet door. We fade to black, and when we come back in, she's sitting in class with her friend, who's drawing, and some boys are making fun of them, but her friend doesn't even seem to care, and she's like, wow, that's really cool, that's inspiring. And the next day, she goes up to her closet, she pulls out the box, she goes downstairs, puts it on the table, and the next week, they drive to the barn. She gets out, pets the horse, and then gives it a big hug. And she gets back on, and she's riding again, and she's jumping, and she's really enjoying herself. And she gives the horse a carrot, pats it on the nose, walks away, and goes over to her calendar and marks the next day she gets to ride on her calendar. And we fade out to black.
This animation has like a script, so the stuff I'm going to be saying after this is basically what the main character is saying. Okay, so yeah. Gardening. One of the most fulfilling and rewarding activities one can do. Cultivating and connecting with a space to yield fresh vegetables, fruits, and herbs. There truly is nothing better. This year, through plenty of hard work, it is time for the first harvest. Spinach. Okay, so here he basically plucks the spinach, he cooks it, it overcooks and turns like super small, and so he stares at it in like annoyance, I guess. And so like he's kind of like grumpy, so he trashes it, and then he like has to calm himself down, so he breathes in and he breathes out, and he's like, no matter, we still have plenty more. So here he walks out to where the garden is, and he just stands there in disbelief because his garden is being eaten by a bunch of animals. And then they look up because they notice he's there, and they're all like, oh no. And so here he basically snaps, and then here's the twist. He has a rifle and he loads it. He's like, ch-ch, and then it goes bam, and then it cuts to black. And then here is him talking again, and he goes, hunting, one of the most exhilarating and fulfilling activities one can experience. And then the end. Black screen.
The little sister walked into the frame, pointing at the car keys. You said you're going to teach me how to drive. When? Talking to her older sister who's sitting on the couch. Can you get mom or dad to do it? She said, annoyed. No, you said you would. Ugh, fine, I'll do it. It cuts to them at the parking lot of their school. The big sister's going through the motions. Okay, keys in the ignition, hands at 10 and 2. Okay, I'm ready, said the little sister. Wait. You need your seatbelt, said the big sister. Okay, now I'm ready. The big sister gulps. She's nervous. She has sweat coming down her forehead. Vroom! The car takes off down the road. Slow down, said the big sister. She's so scared. She has gripping the handlebar. Relax, said the little sister. We're not even going that fast. You're such a grandma. They approach a turn. The big sister's like, there's a turn ahead. Do you see the turn? You're not slowing down like you see the turn. They go so fast around the curve that The car turns on its two side wheels. The big sister has had enough. She's like, I want to go home, park, we're done, enough. They go to park. The little sister, they're bickering back and forth. She says, you said you're going to teach me how to drive. We've barely done anything. The big sister's like, I told you I would teach you how to drive, but you're driving like a maniac. I value my life. Just park. We're going home. They fight so much that when they go to park, they hit the cement thing separating the parking spaces. They're both shocked. Like, I can't believe that just happened. The big sister gets out to check if the car is okay, and the little sister is sitting in the car, embarrassed and hurt. She gets out of the car, goes around to the other side of the seats, and the big sister comes around, pats her on the shoulder, they hug, and the big sister makes sure the little sister knows that she's not upset, that she's not mad. They get in the car, getting ready to go home, but the big sister says, hey, do you want to go get some food? And they leave.
Okay, so this story is set back when there was Hurricane Florence, and it was a mess. But I was looking for my cat because obviously we don't want her to be out in a hurricane. And I do find her because she was already near the door, wanting to go inside. She quickly goes inside, and just as I'm closing the door, I hear a noise behind the fence. This was in my backyard. So I go and try to figure out what the noise is, and that's when I meet this mourning dove that I later named Florence. And Florence was under some cardboard, and I tried to go get him, expecting him to try to fly away, which he did, but he couldn't fly. And that made me more worried, so that made me want to get him to pick him up more, but he obviously kept running away, scared. Eventually, after a few minutes of struggling to get him, I end up actually getting him and picking him up. Okay, so eventually, once I get him, I go back inside to tell my brother. He's the first person that I showed, and he was kind of excited that we would get a pet bird, and so was I. I was kind of excited about that, but my parents were kind of mad that I brought in a bird in the house and didn't want to keep him in here because he would, poop everywhere. But eventually, after convincing them that it was too dangerous for him to go back outside into the hurricane, they said that he could stay here for a while. So I took him back inside, and we get a shoe box, and we put an old piece of clothes that I don't need anymore, and I put it there so he would stay warm. And my brother comes in with some bread to give to Florence and a little cup of water. I sat down and I carefully gave it to Florence. So eventually, Florence stayed with us for a whole month. For the first few days, he was really scared of us. So he wasn't used to people, and he would go to a corner and just stay there. But eventually, he did get comfortable around us, and even started hopping off of the shoebox and trying to fly. And then eventually, he ended up really learning how to fly properly, and he would get on my closet and really poop everywhere around my room, on my bed, and everything. So obviously I would get angry about that. I didn't want bird poop on my bed, but I couldn't stay mad at him because he was really cute. So I couldn't really stay mad at him. Eventually, after a few more days, I realized that since he could fly on top of my closet, he could fly everywhere. That it was probably time for him to return back to outside into nature, right? And I remember looking out the window and just seeing him, knowing that I had to let him go because he was getting a little bit too big and also flying everywhere. I eventually tell my brother, and he agrees, and we take him outside with the shoebox and open it, kind of like a surprise for him. And I take him out, and I like wait for him to fly away, which he does. And I just see him fly away into the trees, and that's it.
So we open on the main character and his mom standing outside of this school, which is his new school. And like they wave goodbye to each other. He's really excited because there's all these people that he's going to be able to meet. So he walks into the school and he sees a group of people and he decides to like say hello to them, be the bubbly, friendly person that he wants to be. But it turns out these people are not happy with him. They don't like him because they can see that like his eyes change color. And that's definitely not normal in this society. So they kind of like, they're like, go away, basically. And he sadly walks away and finds this different group of people. This group of people does the exact same thing, and one of them even pushes him. Like, that's how repulsed these people are. And then we have our main character running away, just finally done with all of this. And as he's running away, this other kid sees this and is like, okay, maybe something needs to be done here. So we have our main character bursting through the doors of the school, sitting down on the steps. He's all alone, there's no one else around. Then the other kid from before, who saw what was happening, comes around and just like he smiles at him, and then he takes off this hat that he was wearing and reveals that he actually has naturally like bright red hair, like anime kind of. And so our main character is so excited to finally like see that someone else is like him, but also not, because it's different. And like in the doorway of the school, all these people are like all nosy and stuff, like, what are you guys doing out here? So like the two main characters are hugging, and then these people come out and everyone stares at each other. There's this really awkward moment where no one knows what to do. And then suddenly another girl comes forward and she reveals that like she has a third eye. And then from this point on, people start revealing different things about themselves. There's somebody with scales, there's somebody with like wings and elf ears, like devil horns. And then they're all like just chatting and having a great time. And the bell rings. So it's just like this comedic thing where it's like this big moment, but then everybody has to go back inside. So everyone but the two main characters goes inside, and they share this moment where they just have a little fist bump, and then that's it.
Okay. And we're shut again. Okay. So it opens up the first frame with a black envelope and a letter on top. And so it'll be similar to how Star Wars has their epilogues or their intros, kind of giving you context as to what's going on, what's happened before, and just helping to build the world in a very short sequence so that we save time. And then it will fade into a street view of the homes, so you can kind of see the neighborhood and get a feel for the vibe and what the aesthetic should look like. And then you will see a close-up shot of Ava's 2 feet standing on the doorstep, and you'll hear ding dong, so she's ringing the doorbell. And you will see next, May will open the door and be like, "Oh, welcome in, it's so good to see you. Like, it's so nice to have a new neighbor and finally have everyone living here." Ava will say, "Thank you so much, I hope it's not awkward because I'm new," and it'll be showing her from May's point of view opening the door. So you'll see the Chinese decorations on the wall, indicative of the Chinese New Year celebration that will be taking place. And so, going here, Ava will be sitting at the table doing introductions with the neighbors, like, "Hi, how are you? I'm new to the neighborhood. What's your name? What's your name?" And then she'll start zoning out and thinking about the lightning strike that you'll hear about in the epilogue that just occurred. And so she'll be zoning out, thinking about how it doesn't make much sense and how this neighborhood is kind of weird, even though the house was a great deal, so she's trying to overlook it. And so this will be a redo of the scene. It'll be like with a vignette in the background, and kind of show the lightning strike to kind of give viewers an idea of what it looked like and what she was experiencing. And so then May will call around the corner and say, "Hey guys, who wants to help with dessert this year?" To kind of help viewers understand that this is a thing that they do every year with the neighborhood. And so the next guy goes, "Hey, maybe Ava should do it. She's new here. It'd be fun for her to get involved." She's like, I don't know. I burn water. I'm really bad at cooking." And May says, "Nah, it's fine. Don't worry about it. You can't be worse than my husband. She's a horrible cook." And she's like, "Okay, in that case, I'll help." So she's standing in the pantry, kind of with her arms in front of her because she's a little nervous, but she's still excited. But they don't know each other well, so she's a bit closed off. And so May's like, "Hey, could you maybe grab the flour for me? While you're at it, where'd you come from? Like, where'd you move here from? I noticed you live by yourself." Then she'll be like, "Oh yeah, I moved here from Georgia. I got an internship." And May will be like, "Oh, we moved here from Thailand. We actually moved here because I got a job interview and I'm a professor at Georgetown University." And then as Ava's grabbing it, she stops paying attention and you can kind of hear the noise. Sorry, that's my phone. You can kind of hear the noise. And then she'll be like, "Oh, watch your head." And you'll see the flour kind of fall on her. And then those 2 black squares here are the 2 black envelopes, similar to the one in the epilogue. And so you'll see them on the floor, and it's kind of like, "Whoa, you guys got those too? That's really weird." And so she's staring at them, and she's like, "What are those doing here? Like, I thought I was the only one to have gotten them." And May brushes it off, and she's like, "Oh, don't worry about it. Like, I just left the mail there. Isn't that a weird place?" Trying to talk it off and make sure she doesn't think about it too much. May was like, "You got one of those letters too?" And then her husband comes in, and he's like, "Hey, what's all the noise going on here? I heard something weird." And he sees the envelopes on the floor. He's like, "Oh my God, you showed her? Like, what were you thinking? We weren't going to tell anybody." And so Ava's like, "Did you guys read them?" And that's when May drops the cans and all the ingredients she had because, yes, she did read them. And they've actually been trying to get rid of them for weeks because of what they say on the inside, which is a secret that they've never told anyone. And one that would be not so super great if it got out. So they tried to hide them, but they keep reappearing every time they do. And that is it.
this is my character Gabriel, and we have our second main character, Charlotte. And in the panels here, first panel, we have Gabriel looking at Charlotte and her not even noticing. And then the second panel, we have him trying to offer an umbrella to her. And the third panel, she showed that she already has her own umbrella. Then the fourth panel, she's trying to grab a book, and Gabriel puts his head on her trying to flirt, and she doesn't really like it, so she tells him to get off. In the next panel, we have him trying to throw a paper airplane towards her to get her attention, and in the next panel, it just gets stuck in her hair, and she doesn't even notice. So then, in the next one, he tries to give her a note. He passes the note to her, and she gets the note, and it says, "Do you like me, yes or no?" And she thinks when he asks her that, he thinking like as friends. So she's like, "Friends, of course." Then the next panel we have here, he brought flowers. The next day he brings flowers, but then he sees her with a guy, and he noticed that her expression is different than when they're together. And so he gets it, and then he drops the flowers and just walks off.
The scene begins with a snake traveling through the grass, looking for a place to sleep for the day. He finds a seemingly empty garage and enters it. While he's in the garage, he hears a noise in the distance. The camera pans over top his head, and a woman comes into view, cleaning the shelves of the garage. The snake feels threatened by this and hisses at the woman. The perspective then changes as the woman notices the hissing. She turns towards the sound, and within the reflection of her eyes, we can see the snake. From her perspective, the snake looks a lot scarier than it actually is. The snake quickly comes in to bite her hand. The bite connects, and he sinks his fangs into her. The pain quickly begins to rise for the woman. The venom seeps in, and her hand begins to tremble. She holds her hand still with the other. The camera pans back up to the face of the woman. She starts to tear up as she is now nervous of what might happen to her. Suddenly, the scene changes and we can see a hospital sign. Here, the woman is being treated for her wound. We now see a close-up of her hand, where a bandage is covering up the healing wound. She thinks back to the snake and how scary it looked to her. She quickly wipes away the memory, and she now sees this as a catalyst for her fear of snakes.
One day, Bee was out getting pollen and saw this dying flower. He frantically started looking around for something to help. He notices this bucket of water and goes over to it. When he tries to pick it up, he realizes he's way too small. Some of his colony sees and goes over to help. At first, Bee refused, but soon let them help. It was so much easier now, and they were able to get water to the flower. It's not long until the flower is fully healthy again.